Hi, everybody. So I'm Stewart. I'm from two organizations represented here today. So Level 39 in Canary Wharf, which is a fintech and retail tech accelerator program, and also from Tech Hub in London and back here in Bangalore. So we're a membership organization for tech product entrepreneurs, and we work with startups all over the globe.
Thank you so much.
Hey guys, can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
आगे आ जाओ सब.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah?
Do you want me to introduce you?
And all of you, please, at the back, come in the front. We have chairs.
Green light on, so it should be on.
Why don't you take this and I can stand there?
Can you hear me now?
Take this, I'll stand.
It's funny.
Yeah, I can hear
Can you
you.
hear me now?
Hold it to your mouth. No. All right.
Hi, so I'm Amit Anand. I'm from Singapore-based Jungle Ventures. We are an early-stage venture fund. We do only seed stage investing. Our focus is to find companies in Asia that we think can become category leaders in Asia. We have about 9 investments in India, mostly in Bangalore, but a few in Mumbai as well.
Thank you so much. So my question to all of you is, Stewart, thanks to you that I have my chit-chit, is how do I find my market fit when I go about building my product?
Who wants to start?
You should have the answer
Okay,
first.
cool. So I think John's talked a little bit about market fit, and I really like the 100 customers you have to speak to as part of the startup program. It's very cool. At Level 39, what we have is, I don't know how many of you have been to London, been to Canary Wharf, but it's quite a big place, and there's a big building in the middle, One Canada Square, and right outside is the customers. So for the fintech stuff, we've got Barclays, Morgan Stanley, HSBC. They're all in big buildings as part of Canary Wharf. And Level 39 has been put together by the chairman of the Canary Wharf Group, specifically to service those customers. So the 100 customers that you need to speak to are right there. For the retail tech, we literally have them in the basement. So Canary Wharf has a very large mall right underneath in the ground. And all the customers that you need as a retail tech guy are right there. So you can walk through the mall. He's done deals so you can try things out with the actual shops and stuff in the mall. You can try beacon ideas out. You can speak to people in the mall who are customers. You can really get close to that. And that kind of helps you iterate really, really quickly. And you don't need to leave the campus. It's fantastic.
Thank you. Thanks so much, John.
So yeah, I spoke a little bit about, so you do 100 interviews, that's a nice round number, but what happens in those, and I was just talking about that in the last question. So we do use the business model canvas that most people know about today. In the last 3-4 years, it's emerged as a nice tool. It's not the only tool, but a tool where you can map out your whole business there. And then the critical thing about product market fit is you need to work through your assumptions about what you think you're solving and who your customers are. And that's where you need to do all those interviews. And what we find in our program is everybody thinks they have product market fit. And so we apply these tests. There's a number of them. And I just spoke to one a minute ago. And one of them is, okay, if you were doing, say, a proof of concept, and you were to take it away from them, you walked in tomorrow and said, okay, we're done with the testing, thank you very much, and I'm turning the product off. What will they do? And as I said, you don't really have true product market fit if you don't have them saying, no, please, we'd like to continue to test it and so on. So there are other tests you can apply to really understand when you get that. And it's hard to do. This is the work that needs to be done.
Thank you.
Yep.
So, to add to sort of those comments, I think product market fit is one of the hardest things to do, and I don't think it ever ends. Mm-hmm. I think, even if you look at companies that are in the $1 to $2 million revenue run rates or $5 million revenue run rates, they are looking for a product market fit to get to the $100 million revenue run rate. So I don't think this journey of trying to know your customer is ever going to end. So you got to be sort of in that mode all the time. And I think one of the learnings of having been a failed entrepreneur and being in a space which I had no clue about. So I tried to be an entrepreneur in a space which I had no clue about. One of the biggest learnings of that was that you need deep expertise about any domain to build a big business in that domain. And if you don't have that expertise in yourself, then you need to find people in your team, in your advisory network, in your investors who will bring that deep expertise to you. Because 100 interviews is great, but you can also shorten a lot of that cycle by bringing in the right people in your team.
Great. Thank you so much.
I do want to add to that because it's a really key point I get all the time about. I'm doing these very early stage programs, so that initial 100 is important. But I don't think it ever stops as far as understanding what your customer need is until there's a test. How many of you have too many customers? When you can say, I've got too many customers, I don't want any more, I'm done, then you can put that aside for a while. So,
I hope we can stay on this subject for a little bit because I think it's really clear to me that product market fit it's the ball game. It's absolutely everything. And as you say, the journey never stops. You've just got staging posts where customers agreed and paid. And one of the things I've really learned in coming here to India is kind of a big difference between London and Bangalore and working with the startups in both places. In London, it's hugely design heavy. It's very focused on the end user and engineering light. I mean, sometimes it's really flaky. The thing that's there looks beautiful, it's sexy as hell, but it's not going to stand up to much volume. It's not going to do much on the security front. It's not very cool. India and Bangalore particularly is coming across to me at the moment as more engineering heavy, design light, like it's thinking like a group of engineers building products that people are going to buy rather than thinking about what the customer wants and then working back through to what they need to do to engineer I think Dave put it quite well yesterday, the leanest, smallest, most flaky thing you can get there for the customer now that's just slightly better or slightly different to what they can already see in the marketplace to get there quickly. And I think something that was also almost touched upon yesterday was the kind of coefficient of change. You're all customers. I'm a customer. These guys are customers in some way, shape, or form. We use apps. We use things all the time. And we change our minds all the time. So the engineering process has to be able to change at the same speed that we change our minds. And if it doesn't act in that same sync, then the customer's going to move on to other things. They're going to leave you. They're going to do different journeys because you've not kept with them. So it's great, do 100 features. I only want one. Do 100 features and be 6 months late. I only want one. I want it now. I didn't want it yesterday. I don't want it tomorrow. I want it now. And then I'll change my mind in a week's time and I want something different and we move again. That journey is the ball game.
Thank you so much. At least we're now going to think about more design maybe. A question which most of the entrepreneurs, I'm sure, will have, and in India it hits us more and it's slightly less magical in India, is the revenue. The question of revenue is when you're building a product company, when do you start thinking about getting revenues? Because it's like, mostly it's like get the customers. So do you get the customers and early customers, or do you get revenue? So when do you start deciding what you need to do? Or do you start just you're told to get revenues early on?
Yep. I guess I'll start in relating it to the last question. Product market fit is necessary. You got to have that. But then, you got to build a business once you have that, and then you have to keep checking back with your customers, as we said. So there is a revenue model that needs to be addressed. And talking earlier about B2C style businesses, they're quite different in their revenue models than B2B style companies. I specialize in B2B, so I don't want to talk to B2C, but particularly in the enterprise area, we really encourage companies to get revenue early as a validation point. So even if you're doing a proof of concept, you should be asking for money. So we're going to do tests. It's going to take 3 months. We're going to charge you $25,000. And if they say, no to that, you need to understand why. But I think it's good to ask for money right away and start to understand how they value what you're proposing. So we would advocate, getting early revenues as a validation point.
Great. Stewart?
So I'm a huge believer in crowdfunding. I think rewards crowdfunding is fantastic, and I think equity crowdfunding is also fantastic because what it does is it validates before even too much product is out there that people really want it. And the reason it's cool is because it's not just a fund investing in you. It's individuals, it's your customers investing in you. So they're buying you before you're there to be bought. And that, for me, is amazing validation, and it can help you iterate incredibly quickly. If you put something up on Kickstarter and nobody buys it, it sucks, don't make it. It's as simple as that. Your customer base does not want it. If you go to a crowdfunding platform like Crowdcube or Seedrs or something like we use in the UK, and you put your business idea up there and they don't invest in you, you suck. Just step away. Don't waste your life. It's fine. Go and do something else. Rather that than spend another 6 months trying to raise investment funds, which maybe you'll get because they think you don't suck, and then your customer base don't buy you after that. So I'm a big believer. Early validation, money really is the big difference between I think it's cool, or actually I know it's cool and I really want to do it.
So I think, Shradha, cloud and app stores have really flattened the world. And if you can't make money in this world, then I don't think you can make money anywhere. So, you need to have revenues. And, so that's sort of observation number one. And sort of linking it into observation number two is don't even try and waste your time in India. Especially if you're an enterprise customer. Indian enterprises don't pay. Use them for proof of concept, proof of validation. I'm saying that at NPC. Okay. So it's a wake-up call, right?
Yeah.
Does anybody believe here that Indian customers pay?
Impossible.
Right. Yeah, so, and cloud is sort of now giving you an option of probably having a better shot at getting a customer who's ready to pay, so why waste your time here? So that's sort of my second observation, that if you're an enterprise customer, have a reality check if you're trying to sell to India and go and focus on markets which are more early adopters, like the Valley. There are companies in India, there are companies in Australia that have shown that you can do that, and go and learn how they've done it. Has anybody learned of a company called Altacian out of Australia? They've become a $3 billion company on the back of zero sales force in the US. Anywhere in the world, actually. They've never ever hired a sales guy. So I'm sure if they can do it, some of you can do it as well.
I have one quick question from this. Is like you're based in Singapore. How, what's the opportunity for Indian entrepreneurs, especially in enterprise space?
It's huge. Singapore government itself is one of the largest sort of spenders on tech. It's one of the most early adopters of tech in the world. And any crazy thing that you can think about in enterprise technology, they've already implemented it. So when I walk into a Singapore airport, it's it's not magic that I can get out of the airport in 3 minutes, flat 3 minutes. It is that they've sort of figured tech, they've figured everything, they've built everything using technology. I don't even talk to a guy when I get to a Singapore airport. I just walk through all the electronic systems and get out. So I think yes, there's a big opportunity, but I don't want to sell a Kool-Aid here. It's as difficult as anywhere in the world. You need to know the customers. You need to know the partners who need to know the customers, and so on and so forth.
Okay, yeah. Before I make it open, I have last question to both of you. Like you talked about Singapore, if you can talk about Silicon Valley as an opportunity, Indian businesses who are looking at going there. I'm sure Citrix Accelerator will be one good place. But besides Citrix Accelerator, what do you think will give edge to businesses who are looking at setting up or looking at clients over there?
Yeah. So, of course, Silicon Valley for many years has been a great place for startups to come because we have the best pool of people, capital, know-how, and so on. And that'll continue to be true to a degree. What I talked about earlier was there are other pools of such resources happening in the world. And the problem with Silicon Valley, of course, is it's expensive. So we often encourage people, while it might make sense, particularly if you're targeting customers in the US, to have the senior team come to the US. And it might make sense for them to look for customers and look for investors there. Your development team probably shouldn't be there because it's quite expensive. And at this moment in time, it's just hard to find people, period. Whether they be engineers or designers or whatever, Silicon Valley is not the best place necessarily to put those resources together. So that's one model that people have been doing for many years, is have the senior team come over to Silicon Valley and take advantage of that network and then have the development team somewhere else. We have one such team in our accelerator right now, and they have their development team here in Hyderabad. It's a challenge, though. Now, they have to go back and forth a lot to keep the development team working efficiently. So that's a distance challenge. There's lots of other places in the world, though, as we were just talking about Singapore and the UK and Europe that might make sense as well. One of our teams relocated to Singapore, actually. He was an Indian guy, went to Stanford and been in the Valley a long time. We funded him at the seed level, but then he got Singapore government money, and he found their support and the network there in Singapore and Asia overall was fantastic. So he moved himself over there and doing quite well.
So for London, I think, obviously I've only been working in Bangalore for 6, now 7 years, and so I'm still learning exactly what being in India really means. But I recognize a lot of very strong engineering talent, and I know that the people I work with in London recognize good engineers come from here. But if you're going to succeed in being, particularly in B2C in the UK and very much in London, you need to be there. You need to physically be there, and you need to understand the culture, because it's massively different and it's changing, particularly in the startup space, so ridiculously fast. So I spend my time between Boston, between here and between London, and I can't keep up with how even the restaurants change in the small district where we all hang out in Shoreditch. So how you keep pace with the nuances, with the change, with the fashions, with what B2C market really means, you have to be there. And in Level 39 and Tech Hub, we provide really soft landings for people to come and visit. People like UKTI help incredibly the migration between the countries, and I would absolutely advocate, don't be remote. Don't try and pitch into that market from afar, and don't think one sales guy on the ground really helps you understand that market. Be there, be in it, be immersed in it. And I can go out to events in this space every morning, lunch, dinner, as I'm sure you can in the Valley. Every day of the week. I can forget my family at the weekends if I need to, all weekend, and I still won't go to everything that's there, and I still won't understand everything that's happening. It's kind of crazy.
Thank you so much. So London dreams, Valley dreams, Singapore dreams. These are you guys. Get in touch with them. But before we...
Shortest flight, 4 hours from Bangalore. All of them are long flights.
do you have any questions? If you do, then please quickly, yeah.
So my question is to John, and I'm trying to relate to some of the comments we heard from the plenary panel. We had one, the lady from Walmart, who targeted just one customer. A 20-member team, just working for one big customer. As you talk about, interviewing 100 potential customers, is that really realistic in a B2B space if you're targeting a very niche pool?
Yep. So is it realistic to interview 100 customers? Absolutely. We've got companies do it all the time. What you said was there was a company, did you say your company, that's just focused on one large customer, Walmart? I'd say that's high risk, because if that customer, for any reason, decides they don't need the solution anymore, or somebody who was your champion leaves or whatever, you're dead. Do you really want to risk your whole company on one big customer? I would argue not. We've had one of our portfolio companies recently did a bet on a large, very large multinational, put all their energy into that. It's not that they walked away from the deal, the large company, but it just took forever, because corporate time can take a long time, and you've got to manage a seed funding or whatever funding you have, and you're usually counting the months, not years. And they died. They died because they couldn't wait long enough. They burned through all their money before the large partner really started producing revenue share is what they went after. So I would recommend against that.
If I could follow up on this one, because I shared John's thoughts, and the last company that I owned that I sold did have one very strong customer and a few others, but it was very dominated by one customer. And I learned a long time ago from friends of mine that made several £million in the UK that with one customer you can have a good company, you just need to divest quickly, and you need that customer to be very strong with you. But what I learned in the last company was when you have one dominant customer, speak to 100 people in their space, because you add value back to them. If all you do is listen to them and do what they say, you're being quite transactional at the end of the day, particularly if the relationship lasts a long time. But our strong customer was Orange, a mobile network carrier. When we started working with 3 and O2 and Vodafone, And just talking to them in the sales meetings, we came back to Orange with new ideas, with new impetus, with new competitive things. So talk to those 100 customers. It's totally realistic. So it's a really good thing to do.
Yes.
50. You speak to 100 people and you get a mixed response.
Sorry, I missed it. What was it?
It's about those 100.
Okay, so if the interviews go 50 yes and 50 no's, was that
Yeah,
the
it's
question?
like a mixed response.
So it's the no's that you learn the most from, okay? So you want to get a lot of no's because one of the things we measure is, okay, you did 100 interviews. I had a set of assumptions, maybe 1, 2, 3 assumptions. How many assumptions did you either validate or invalidate? And what I like to see is the ones you invalidated, because I'm going to assume you're wrong when you start your first business model and you made your first assumption. So I want to see you prove yourself wrong, because that means you're learning. So it's great to get no's, and then continue to evolve your value proposition and your assumptions till you get to a point where there's a set of customers that are saying, yes, I want to go ahead, and then you can go deeper with them. So no's are great.
No, I think so. I love some of the stuff you guys do. When they say no, maybe the people you thought were your customers aren't your customers. So if you've got 50 yeses, what's common about them that's not common about those? So you may have the great product, but for the wrong people. Does that make sense? There's a lovely myth in the UK about a company called Innocent Drinks, which is totally non-tech. And the guys, when they founded Innocent Drinks, they had a market store. It's a smoothie company. They make fruit juices and smoothies and stuff. And they had their smoothie range, and they had a market store, and they gave the drinks away for free. And they had two trash bins outside the store. And they said to everybody on the sign, we're giving you the drinks today. We're going to start our business next week if this is the yes bin, this is the no. What do you think? And then the empties had to go into the bins. And at the end of the day, they counted up, and of course there were some in the no, but there were more in the yes, and they went forward. And they were a poster child for entrepreneurship in the UK for quite a while, because they went from 0 to like £10 million revenue in just a couple of years, making smoothies, bottled drinks that,
A/B testing, huh?
Absolutely. And it's that kind of real.
Any more questions? Yes.
Yeah. So let's say it's much early days. What I'm talking about, you're talking about talking to 100 customers. I'm not even sure that they are my customers or target customers. I have a product idea, and I want to figure out whether this idea is the right one. And I go talk to people. And how do I know that these are my customers? They may not be my customers. My customers are different, who pay for me, but then these are the users. So should I, at that point, go to the users or customers to validate my product idea?
Yeah, what I said earlier was when I say customers, I mean that in the broadest sense. So what you can do is put a value chain together. So there's an end user of your product that you're thinking about, and then you're on the other side. And on that value chain, there's different partners or channels or organizations that'll be involved. So you can just write that down on paper, and you can test all along the value chain about your assumptions. So, and then you can identify, well, this is a customer, meaning they'll pay. This is a user, they won't pay, but they'll use. And then you can start to figure that out, the different segments along the line. So in doing lots of volume, which I'm encouraging people to do, you start to figure that stuff out. And you'll have aha moments and get a deeper understanding of your value chain, which may not be the right value chain. Then you move things around. So
if I could come back to your question a little bit, you said if I've got product and I'm then asking customers the questions. For me, you're not early stage because you've got product. For me, you need to have customers that you talk to, then you design the product. Does that make sense? So don't do any code until you've got that customer viewpoint kind of nailed down. Maybe make it out of paper and have your Google Glasses or whatever. But don't write any code. Don't make a real product until that customer's helped you shape and design that thing. Make sense?
So coming to the next one where you also spoke about have somebody paying you money, early customers. So in this case, I want to really go behind the users more and more and create a real value which I can position to the customer and say, this is the user base and you pay me now. So that would take a while. How do I deal with this? There's only seed funding the option, or because nobody pays for me?
So I think what you're, maybe I'll chip in, the models that you're mostly looking at are the freemium kind of models, right? You want people to start using it before they actually, pay for it. And these kind of models will typically work in some ways in a C2B kind of environment where, in some ways you're getting consumers who are part of the enterprise to start using a product, and then you want the buyer, who's probably the CFO or whoever else or the IT department to pay for that product. And yes, I think, in these kind of environments or in this kind of situations, you will have to find people, investors, partners who understand that this value proposition is strong enough and this demand is strong enough. And it's okay to not have to pay right now as long as I can see deep engagement with the product. So I think engagement can replace early revenues. And, but if you don't have engagement, and you don't have early revenues, then that's a big problem you have. But if you have very deep engagement and there is a potential of a big community that you can go after, you'll surely find funding to support you early on. Then.
Thank you so much. Yes. Thanks a lot. Thanks to all the
thank you.
panelists. Let's give a big round of applause to them.
Thank you.